damages and cancellations at Newark Liberty International. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and the Deputy Operating Officer for the FAA were in the hot seat.
FAA Deputy Chief Operating Officer Franklin McIntosh testifying today on Capitol Hill, revealing new information.
When we lost that first line, the second line did not kick in like it was designed to do.
About the 90-second radar screen outage at Newark last month.
That's what caused the disruption.
During those 90 seconds, was there a significantly heightened danger to the flying public?
I don't believe there was a heightened significant danger to the flying public.
McIntosh says they're now implementing a new contingency plan.
ABC's Perry Russum. President Trump in Qatar, the second stop of his Middle East trip this week. He's touting a deal between Qatar and Boeing to buy U.S.-made planes. And a state of emergency remains in parts of Maryland and Virginia after torrential rain yesterday triggered flash flooding. This is ABC News. In Texas, a mother is facing charges, authorities say, accused of buying ammunition and tactical gear for her son's alleged plans to attack a middle school.
33-year-old Ashley Pardo is under arrest and charged with aiding in the commission of terrorism. An affidavit obtained by ABC News says she provided ammunition and tactical gear to her son, whose behavior demonstrated plans for mass violence targeting Rhodes Middle School in San Antonio. Her son was found earlier this year to have had a map of the school labeled suicide route. At the time, authorities found he had a fascination with mass killers. It was his grandmother who called police on Monday. They say he had ammunition, body armor, and in his bedroom, even an explosive device. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Japanese automaker Nissan says it plans to slash about 15% of its workforce, or 20,000 employees, due to a slowdown, it says, in sales in China and other countries. I'm Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Hey, it's me, your liver. You know, the organ that helps you recover every weekend after pizza, donuts, and all those drinks. When you have a headache, you take an aspirin. You have a stomach ache, you pop an acid. But where's the love for your best buddy, the liver? The least that you could do to help me stay healthy is take Active Liver from New Nordic. Active Liver tablets contain high-quality, all-natural ingredients like milk thistle, globe artichoke, and turmeric extracts, which are proven to keep me healthy and you feeling your best. Active Liver provides an easy daily detox and helps protect me all year long. So let me make you an offer you can't refuse. You take care of me with Active Liver, and I keep taking care of you. Capiche?
See for yourself why Active Liver is Scandinavia's #1 liver health supplement. You can find Active Liver at CVS and online at Amazon or directly from NewNordicUSA.com. Again, find it in stores at CVS or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grothman.
You're live there, Todd. You cannot hear me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives right here, WSMN 1590 and 95.3 on your FM dial. We're kind of waiting for Todd McKinley to get his gear together. Something happened, I guess, in his test. He says he cannot hear me. Interesting. Man, again? All right, let me see. Now I got to play with technology here while I try to figure out what's going on. Cannot hear me. All that dead air. It's lovely. So yeah, we're gonna try to get this thing together here.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you, Todd. It's hard to do two things at the same time. So let me see what we got going on here. Yeah, my mic is kicking, so I know you're hearing me out in, or at least I think you're hearing me out in Radio Land. Yeah, that needle's moving. So, and who's calling in? Hang on a second. We'll get Jonathan in here, and he'll probably coach us through it. Hey, Johnny.
Push the button that says "Don't touch" one time.
The one that says "Don't."
Yeah, push it one time. See if you can hear it then.
Oh, he stepped out. Oh, hang on. Nope. I'll bring him back in. Man, I appreciate you jumping in and helping me out, brother. This is that one I would not have thought to push. Can you hear me now, Todd? I don't think he can hear me.
Push it one more time.
Can you hear me now, Todd? Nope, he is not signaling that he's hearing me at all. It might be on his end too. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was the only suggestion I had. So.
All right. Thank you, Johnny.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So yeah, last week I did the show by myself, and let me see if I'm kicking in. I know what I can do here. I'll check in, kick in to see if my audio is. Yeah, it's feeding through. So I can see the microphones pushing through. So I'm pretty sure they can hear me on the other end. Let me type them again. So yeah, I'm just trying to get this communication over him, and we're doing it the old-fashioned way. We're texting here. Let's see where. All right. Maybe if TJ, if you're out there and you can hear this on YouTube, could you shoot me a message and let me know that you're hearing it okay? Because everything's look like it's working like it's supposed to on my end. So yeah, technology. I keep saying it'll kick you in the butt every time, and sure enough, it's doing its job, man, kicking me in the butt once again. Caught me off guard too. So let's see. While we're waiting on Todd to get that together, I do believe I saw an interesting article regarding Derek Chauvin. I don't know if anybody's heard this one or not. Derek Chauvin, accused of killing George Floyd, tried and sentenced. I don't know how long he got for sentencing, but I guess Donald Trump decided he wants to pardon, or he may pardon Chauvin for his civil rights violations against George Floyd. So Minneapolis right now is being told to be on alert for outrage and rioting and all that good old-fashioned stupidity where people like to burn things, break things, and tear things down simply because their feelings got hurt. Todd is working pretty feverishly over there trying to get this done. And so interesting enough, I don't know why he can't hear anything. Let's see something here. I'll do a test of my own. Well, or if not.
John, can you hear me like this?
Yes.
Okay. Does my not wearing headphones interfere with the program in any way? Like whenever you talk, by chance?
So far, I'm not hearing any echo or anything.
Okay, good.
So, was your headphones?
I don't know. I think it may have been the headphones. I don't know. I did some troubleshooting, and that's where we got where it works like this. So I'm going to go with it.
Well, awesome, man. I'm glad you could make it in because I was sitting there trying to figure out how I was going to talk, type, and get the job done adequately here, and it wasn't working out so well for me. But
right.
Yeah, we are going now. You want to go ahead and open her up and get her started?
Well, I guess you already did that, right? But folks, you are listening to Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. And of course, you can join us online at wsmn.live. And of course, many other Facebook podcast platforms that are out there, all sorts of places. Joined by my co-host, not Colonel Chris White tonight. He's still over in South Africa. We'll get to him in a minute. But John Grosvenor in the studio there in Nashua, New Hampshire. And of course, I'm Todd McKinley in East Tennessee, as always, working through some technical difficulties. But for those of you who normally join the show, watch the show, whatever the case may be on any of the platforms that we stream on, Colonel Chris White's not here. He is in South Africa still. He'll be there probably for another another week or two, I believe. This is the only time this year he's going to be able to go over there, at least in the foreseeable future. So if you are a fan of Colonel Chris White, if you watch our show and watch his stuff, he's still over there. And if you haven't met up with him yet, if you get a chance to look him up, I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. But anyway, what were you talking about there whenever I was having my technical difficulties, John?
Well, I was talking about my mind went to Derek Chauvin and how you pronounce his last name? It's a French name, right? Chauvin.
Right. Yeah, Chauvin or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Donald Trump's considering a pardon for him. He can't pardon him on the state level, obviously, because only the governor can pardon him for crimes he committed against the state. However, he had been charged, tried and convicted on civil rights violations, and so he's serving time for that too. And Donald Trump's considering a pardon for Mr. Chauvin. And so Minneapolis is now being told to be on alert, police and such like that, National Guard, to be on alert that if Donald Trump does decide to sign this pardon for him, that there may be outrage, hurt feelings, things may get broken, burnt, rioting in the streets, threatening of people. You know how it was, the liberal left likes to express their outrage. It's okay if they threaten people's lives. It's okay if they hurt other people, but if the right just goes and has a peaceful protest outside the Capitol building, all of a sudden they're going to jail for 4, 5, 6 years. Rights being violated and everything.
Yep. No, that's just kind of the way it is. And yeah, I would imagine that if he does do that and they riot, you can't blame anybody else. I mean, you're the ones who decided that you're going to riot. So you chose that. You can't blame anybody else. You can't blame Trump, but they will. Trump did it, the derangement syndrome. It's alive and well, as we know. And the left is just showing how idiotic they are. I mean, how close to idiocracy that we are. Just look at the Democrat Party. Look at the people who follow them, for sure.
Oh God, yeah, it's sad that so many people on the left are educated people. Some of these people are doctors and lawyers and stuff, and they buy into this stuff hook, line, and sinker. It's like, I mean, I'm not seeing doctors and lawyers that are going out in the streets and rioting and protesting and breaking.
But they're supporting it though, but yeah, with money,
they support the agenda. They support the whole ideology. And I'm going, what? Do you not understand this?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
sad case when intelligent people or educated people just can't quite see through the veil.
And that goes, I've heard people say that education and intelligence aren't one and the same. Basically, you can be highly educated and still be an idiot.
Mm-hmm. Some educated people lack common sense. Some of those people are attorneys, and some of those people are doctors. And
I don't understand this idea that you're going to stand up for things that just don't make sense. That's not factual. You say you're a man of science, if you will. If you're a doctor, a medical doctor, you're a person of science. How can you sit there and say, oh, there are multiple genders? Now, there are personalities and stuff that make people think a certain way. I'm not going to get into all the different mental illnesses and everything like that. But, think about it. There's two genders, but doctors playing into that, like they should step up and say, listen, what you suffer from is this. Here it is. There's help for you. However, if you're an adult and you want to have it lopped off, whatever, you want to have something tacked on to you, whatever, we can do that. I'll take your money, but I want you to know it's not natural.
Yeah.
It's not natural.
Absolutely.
It's not normal, and I'm not making fun of people who suffer through whatever, who feel that, they were born into a different body or whatever, everybody has some sort of mental issue that they deal with one way or another in their life, neuroses or whatever, or a thought in the back of their head that makes them do something and they don't understand why, but they do it no matter what. I get that, but we shouldn't go around saying all these things are okay and normal. We should say, listen, this is what that is. This is what this is, and treat things accordingly. Call things what they are. We don't do that though.
Well, that's just it. Homosexuality back in the old days. I don't know if you remember Lenny Bruce, and he did this comic skit called
Lenny Bruce
Mask Man. I don't know if you ever seen Mask Man. It was funny, but they wanted to award, he was a Lone Ranger type, and they wanted to award him, right? Somebody says, "Thank you, Mask Man." He goes, "Thank you. What do you mean, thank you?" He goes, "Well, thank you. You did a heroic thing. We really appreciate it." And he says, "Oh, well, I never thought about it that way." He said, "Where you going, Mask Man?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to go home and collect all my thank yous." And so the townspeople want to award him, right? They want to give him something. What do you want, Mask Man? Well, I'll take the white steed and Tonto. Well, Mask Man, I understand why you want the white steed. What do you want Tonto for? An unnatural act. That was the term for it, an unnatural act. It wasn't natural. It was recognized as not being natural. You know, it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, that populated the earth.
Right. Yeah, but you know, talking about Lenny Bruce, man, he stood up for civil rights and First Amendment big time. And he was a major advocate. Went to jail a few times for it as well. And I just to tell some jokes. I mean, for crying out loud, or just to tell the truth about the government at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
REM's Lenny Bruce is not afraid.
Lenny Bruce is not afraid. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I just remember that comic skit he did.
Right.
It was
Well, he
just
has
so
he has
funny,
one.
you know?
I think he was on what was one of the shows. I can't remember. A Steve Allen show maybe. And it was one of the bits that he did, but it's really good. It's called All Alone, All Alone, All Alone. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to listen to that, yeah, I recommend it. Yeah,
I
he
have
was
to check it
hilarious.
out.
He was hilarious for sure. And then he was well ahead of his time. You know what I mean? He's like, you think about this, what George Carlin in those days when Lenny Bruce was like the big deal, whenever George Carlin was young, you know, he was doing tame material, you know, edited, you know, really, I'm combing my hair back. He don't have a beard type stuff, you know, and then Lenny
Thomas
Bruce
the
kind of,
Train. I mean, he was doing Thomas the Train for kids. Yeah.
right. And then Lenny Bruce busted down that door, and all of a sudden, here comes, you know, all these comics that can now say F and this and S and say words that everybody was using anyway, but you couldn't use it on television. You couldn't use it in polite company or even in comedy clubs, for crying out loud. You had people that were there to arrest you for vulgarity or something, which was stupid.
Yeah, people, you know, even as a conservative, I think the whole thing like women bathing and stuff, and they'd actually be out there with a tape measure, measuring the distance between the bottom of their hem to the ground to see if their bathing suit was long enough. Oops, it's
Yeah.
not covering the kneecap. That's a fine. I mean, it was a little beyond prudish, I think. But
Right, right. Well, it's kind of like how the Middle East has been in recent years, in recent decades, you know, especially in Iran, for example, the Islamic Revolution, Afghanistan, you know, with the Taliban and all those folks. I mean, think about Iran, Afghanistan back in the day, 70s and whatever. They had women in universities, they could wear bikinis, whatever the case may be. People were being co-educated, etc. And all of a sudden, clamp down. And you see in our country where you see certain segments of population that want to see that as well. Maybe not Islamic clampdown, but the clampdown from the way that they see things. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, well, I also get the other side of it sometimes too, because you know, I remember growing up as a kid in the 1980s. I grew up in Florida, man, New Smyrna
Yeah.
Beach, Florida. I mean, it's just south of Daytona, and it's got a beach just like Daytona you can drive on and stuff. And I remember I did a lot of surfing as a kid,
Mhm.
and so I didn't value going to school as much as I valued those nice, tasty waves. Anyway,
Right.
walking up and down the beach on a weekend, though, man, I'm telling you what, them girls out there with those G-string bikinis was just unreal. It was like I didn't know which way I was walking. I was so busy being distracted by all these lovely ladies on the beach. It's kind of, you know, it comes to a time, you know, how free is free. You
Right.
know, I mean, do you really have to be practically nude on the beach to have a good time? And so, as an adult, I look at it and go, I wouldn't want to see my daughter out there
No, of
dressed
course
like
not.
that.
No, of course not. But you're glad you weren't in school at that moment, though, right?
Yeah, at that particular moment, when you're 16 years old and you're seeing a whole lot of action
Yeah.
like that, you're pretty happy with life.
You may not be learning anything, but you're learning though, right?
Yeah, right. I'll tell you what, it's a great experience. But
Yeah. No,
yeah, like I
get
say though, it's not prudish to say sometimes people are just underdressed. All too
Oh
often
no,
they're
I get what you're
underdressed.
saying. I get what you're saying, but to me, there's a time and place for that. If that's the way you want to be or dress, whatever. And you talk about dressing like you shouldn't be in front of everybody, you know, in the middle of public everywhere. But you're on the beach, whatever. I know not to go there if I don't want to see that. You know, if you have a family, whatever, take them somewhere else. Maybe there should be a part of
Yeah,
the
but
beach
it's
that
all over
doesn't.
the whole beach, man. Anymore,
Yeah.
that's how it is today. It's anywhere on
Oh,
the
I
beach.
know, and I think there should be some, you know, individuals should exercise some common sense and be like, hey, the families are going to go down there. We're going to stay down here. We're not going to mix. You know, we're going to do our own thing over here.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you know where the nude beach is, then you stay away from it. But
Right. Yeah, but
yeah, I don't
anymore,
know.
it's right there in front of you on every beach, right?
If you want to be pretty much 99% naked on the while sunbathing, man, private pools are for that.
Yeah, I
You
get what
know,
you're saying.
private environments are for that. Not out there in family environments and stuff. Maybe I'm just an old fuddy-duddy now. I don't know. I claim to be a geezer, not an old geezer, just a geezer. But I'm working on that old part.
Right. There we go. Interesting. Yeah. So Donald Trump's over in the Middle East. What are you seeing and what are you hearing? Just basically, everyday traffic on the things that you look at. You know, what are you hearing about the trip over there? I'm hearing some good stuff. Just basic traffic that I see every day.
Well, I saw that Trump is talking about lifting Syria. He's going to lift sanctions off from Syria here. Trump is working really hard in the Mideast apparently, because he's lifting sanctions off from Syria. Saudis are just, smitten with Trump. They love Trump. But they did before he became president. They already had pledged to invest a lot of money in the United States, and so the Saudis were all on board. And every time I think of the Saudis, I think of that time when Trump walked by the Saudi prince, and slapped him on the shoulder. You're not supposed to touch the prince, and there's Trump slaps him like a good old friend, right? Bang, and the prince sits up real stiff, and he looks around like, what just happened?
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I mean, but you think about you're a world leader. You can slap the damn crown prince if you want to. I think you're
not nobody's supposed to touch him, but you know how it is. Trump's Trump, and by God, let's face it, man. If there is a king in this world, he is right on top of the heap. So
right. Oh yeah, yeah.
At the moment,
yeah. At the moment, for sure, he's up there. Yeah, and the protocol. It's like you go to some of these countries, and it's like, okay, you don't speak to this person unless they speak to you or shake their hand or whatever. But the world leader's shaking his hand or doing whatever. That's different. They can do whatever the hell they want to. Like, think about Obama goes up to we went to the Queen and the King of Saudi Arabia years ago and bowed. No.
All these years I almost forgot about that until now. Thanks, Todd.
Right. Well, think about it.
Our sovereignty being represented by a moron bowing before a Saudi prince or a king.
Right.
Or whatever. It's like, wait a minute, we don't bow before kings.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. I've been to the Middle East on a number of occasions, especially to Saudi Arabia, advancing not a president but a vice president on 3-4 occasions or whatever, and going through the protocol meetings. I was about to say mission. Going through the protocol meetings. You'll have somebody from their side will say, okay, this is where the vice president or president will bow. And we say, no, we're not going to bow. He doesn't bow to world leaders. We don't do that. And they say, okay, it's okay. And they move on from it.
Yeah. But I bet somebody,
I bet somebody on that advance didn't say no. And he ended up bowing. Somebody screwed that one up big time, or he just wanted to bow to the guy. I don't know.
That's showing subservient behavior. I'm not all.
And
then you had Michael. No, I really do mean Michael. Hugged. What did he try to hug the Queen of England?
Right. Oh yeah.
And so it's like, you don't touch the Queen, and there he goes running over trying to give her a big hug, like we're buddies now, and
right.
And she's like pushing away. I can't believe she touched me.
Right. Yeah, well, they're not big into that one in their protocol. It's weird, right? Even in private, I don't think the royals
you gotta realize. As bad as some people on the left might like to drop a beat on Trump and take him out, some of these people are targets. John Lennon got shot in the back, and he didn't do anything to offend anybody.
He gave Mark David Chapman a photograph earlier in the day and an autograph, and a few minutes later, later in the day, the guy shoots him, right?
Yeah, it's like what the heck, man. So they got reasons for these protocols. It's to protect them from would-be assassins or people that would want to cause them harm. And they already vet them before they get there. But
but whenever you talk about royalty, technically they're called sovereigns for a reason. Like they're not part of the country. They're above it. They're sovereign. They're their own thing. They're their own entity. Like a king or queen doesn't have to get driver's license, doesn't have to get passports, don't have to pay taxes, none of that, because everything's done in their name, so you don't get to go hug or engage a royal unless they engage with you. That's kind of the protocol, the idea. It's weird, but if the queen wanted to walk through, or the king, whoever wants to walk through a park, people part basically, you know what I'm saying? Unless he wants you to come say hello or talk to him or shake a hand, you don't engage with them. Basically, that's kind of how that is. It's weird. It's a weird mindset.
I'm sure they got laws over there for that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know about over here. Usually we just got a Secret Service guy that directs you to stay away. But over there, they probably got laws for that.
There's no law that says, if the president wants to shake your hand or vice versa, and he's willing, that you can't. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
None of that, which is the way it should be in the world. And I understand their stuff is, goes back to medieval time. Medieval times, basically. It's ancient customs. It's weird. So a lot of it,
absolutely. They don't deviate.
What's that?
They do not deviate from it.
It's some wild stuff. In some ways, I do love some old, protocol or whatever. But don't tell me I can't shake somebody's hand if they're willing, or I can't say hello until they say hello first. No, and see that doesn't really apply whenever we're over there. But we as Americans, whenever we're operating in a diplomatic scenario, we try to adhere to those rules and customs, etc., because we don't want to, basically pee off the locals, our host government.
Absolutely. It's funny you're talking about hello when somebody comes in and says hello. So hey, Sir and True, coming in on Twitch.
Yep, there we go. Cool. Yeah, we got some people popping in. But yeah, for the people who do watch the Colonel normally, he is still in South Africa, greeting his fans and doing his shows and interviews over there. So on the different channels that he has. So just so everybody knows,
He will be back next week.
Yeah, so next week. Okay, yeah, I know you've been in contact with him. I haven't spoken with him, so
yeah. No, he sent me a message today. Let me know his bandwidth was gone. He had no bandwidth where he was. He's out in the bush. So that's the word he used. I'm out in the bush.
He's with the
and I had
Bushmen
no
in
bandwidth for
something.
internet.
I don't know.
So he had to drive into town or go, whatever distance it was. I don't know. But so he sent me a message saying he won't be on the show tonight because of the lack of internet.
Yep.
But he will be back over the weekend. And I know that Billy Painter has him booked on Patriot Confederation this Tuesday, and you can catch on the Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network, on YouTube, on Facebook, and X, and Rumble, and apparently Twitch. Yeah, so he'll definitely be back, and of course, after Tuesday, we'll take political questions.
Just any question you pop over in the chat, we'll try to answer it if we see it. Because some people that come in from the other streaming platforms, sometimes it doesn't all the stuff doesn't get populated over here. I've noticed that because like on Facebook, I'll check on Facebook occasionally, which I don't know. Are we on Facebook right now?
Yeah, we are. I had to share. I had a mess up trying to get it onto the Common Sense Conservatives Facebook page, so I took it off TIBN and pasted it over there. So it is in there.
Got it. Yeah, I see it now. Yeah. So and then I occasionally pop over there and then a few other places, and I know you and the Colonel check on a few other places for comments, etc. So
yeah. We don't know everything. We like to act like we do, but we don't. So we'll just admit it up front. But if you got questions, we'll take questions and talk a little bit about it. I mean, I like the interaction with people that are watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and of course you always have a different mindset from different vantage points. I think it's interesting. Of course, by being able to talk with people or have that that reach, maybe they can cue us in on the things that are going on that we're not aware of. Maybe that even social media is not talking about. Because social media, if you think about social media or actual the mainstream media, they'll hit on a certain story or two stories for a week or whatever. And somehow that's the big thing everybody has to be worried about, right? Everybody has to be pissed off. Everybody has to be an expert or everybody has to pick a side. And then all of a sudden the next week it's gone. It's like, what happened to it? Oh, well, we come up with another thing for the next week,
Don't you like the way they just drop a story? It's like there's no follow-up, no conclusion. It just disappears. And you're going, what happened to that story 2 weeks ago?
Right. And it's funny is whenever the story, really attacks somebody and destroys them, goes after them. And all of a sudden, some of the stuff that they use that's damaging, all of a sudden, they never apologize. And if they do print a retraction, if it's a print media, that retraction is usually like on the 4th or 5th page, on the inside somewhere. No one's gonna ever see it.
So they go
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say apparently, outgoing acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Ed Martin, said Tuesday the Department of Justice is reviewing several former President Joe Biden's final hour pardons, vowing that his new office will scrutinize whether clemency was used correctly or politically. So those aren't off the hook yet.
Good.
About stories that have dropped. Apparently that one resurfaced. So it's still ongoing, sort of like the Epstein files is still ongoing. A lot of
But here's the thing: if anybody thinks that those people who got pardoned, whether legally or not, or unconstitutionally or not, they're not going to go back to jail. Nothing's going to happen. Those pardons will remain in effect.
So here's our question. He says
that's pretty much what will happen. Go ahead.
It's about gun control. Do you think guns should still be easily accessible when school shootings, unfortunately, are constant in the United States? Do you want to answer that?
Well, you can, but I can tell you it's not a constant. You just hear about it on a regular basis, but it's not a constant. Once is too many, I can tell you that. But
that's what he means. It's not every day, but it happens frequently enough.
More than enough, of course. Yeah. But regardless,
That's all right. We got your question. The thing of it is
Go ahead, John.
firearm. Okay, the Second Amendment is not restricted to just firearms. The Second Amendment is about arms altogether, and truthfully, the Second Amendment is about defense. So I'm absolutely, totally, wholeheartedly believe that we should have access to any type of firearm that we want or weapon that we feel like we need to defend ourselves. It's not a matter of school shootings or any other attacks. It's a matter of defense. So I think that people, honest people, should be able to acquire such weapons for their own personal defense, or in some circumstances, the defense of the nation, which we knew as the Minuteman Project. So if the nation was ever under attack or something like that, we would have that ability to defend our country. The Second Amendment is a very, very important amendment. As George Washington said, it only comes in second to the First Amendment, the right to freedom of speech. And because it is about defense. So I believe that we should have access to firearms, easily access. I think there's certain vetting processes that aren't too bad. I don't think it's as easy as people like to think it is, but and of course, maybe it depends on some states. Some states make it more strict than others. That's a truth too. Liberal states tend to make it as difficult as they can. So no, I think that having the right to defense is very, very important. And if more people had the right to defense or knew how to exercise their right to defense, there might be less school shootings that people were carrying. Believe it or not, it is not illegal to carry a gun on school grounds. There is a law saying it is, but it's been ruled by SCOTUS, and you need to look this up yourself. Don't be taking my word for it or anybody else's. Make sure you educate yourself on the matter. But there was a SCOTUS ruling saying that law was unconstitutional.
Okay, I've not heard that or seen that, John. But
there's a lot of them. In fact, there's a government website that lists every law that the SCOTUS has ruled unconstitutional. Yeah. And so you can go to that website and see all these things. And the thing of it is they won't remove those laws from the books. They're still codified. They're still out there. They're just not enforceable. And the reason why is because they expect maybe SCOTUS one day will overturn that ruling. And that to me is a form of abuse. You know, as far as legislatively goes, if it's an unenforceable law, get rid of it. SCOTUS already made a ruling. Get rid of the law, and then you're burdened as a legislator to come back and put it back into place if that ruling is overturned.
Right.
But I think it's ridiculous because it misleads people. You know, you're talking about the party that talked about misinformation is offering legal misinformation when they keep a law like that codified when it's unenforceable.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. So did you see that how many people have and I'm looking for the number here real quick, but the number, Secret Service says there's a staggering number, or Homeland Security said a staggering number of people applied to become an agent after President Trump was shot. And it says the number of submitted applicants between January 20th and May 1st of last year was approximately 7,000, 22,000 applicants in 2025 under the Trump administration. Holy cow. I mean, just thousands of applicants have applied for the Secret Service under Trump. I mean, far ahead of any other administration, and I don't want to say in history, but at least in recent memory. Holy cow, that's wild. People want to serve the guy, I guess, or help keep him safe. I don't know. It's pretty wild. What about the airplane from Qatar, the $400 million airplane? Did you see that?
Yeah, I don't think Trump's going to be flying in that airplane. I understand they want to offer a gift, and it's not a gift to keep. They're loaning a plane for his benefit. And maybe if he was to use it as like extra people or something to move them, that's one thing. But having the president anything other than Air Force One would be a risk that nobody should be taking.
Yeah, nobody's even suggesting that. What's so funny is, you know, just accepting a gift doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make it Air Force One. It's going to be the paint scheme tomorrow, and you're going to be flying in it. I mean, there's even just to get planes from the factory, off the factory floor, to become Air Force One. I mean, that's many years of a process to do all that.
Oh yeah,
you know, they're not going to do that to this plane. Now, let's say they accept the plane, they could use it for any number of things, like you talked about. You know, an additional plane for, you know, staff, for guests, for press, you know, for any number of things you could use it for. I mean, you could even use it for not even presidential stuff. You could use it for any number of things that you wanted to use it for. You could turn it over to the Bureau of Prisons if you wanted to, and that could be or the ICE. You know,
I didn't even think of it.
To get people out. We're going to get them out in style. We're going to put a bunch of chairs in there. lock them in there, and we're gonna fly them home in it.
Outfit it like one of those buses, so it's one big
Yeah.
fuselage of a cage.
Yeah, this could be like what is it, Con Air back in the day? Remember Nick
Yeah,
Cage? That could be Con Air right there. The Marshal Service could have that bad boy. Of course, it'd be way too expensive to operate a 747, 400 model. Lot of money to operate that thing.
Yeah, I can imagine it'd be expensive. Yeah, but no,
I think we could use
generous of them though to do so. I mean, obviously, like we said earlier, a lot of Arab countries, Saudis especially, have shown a great deal of interest in President Trump and we're in the direction our country is taking things.
Right. Well, that's for sure. So, but folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSM 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. We go live every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 Eastern. Colonel Chris White is our co-host who's not here. I'm Todd McKinley, Northeast Tennessee. And of course, John Grosvenor, who holds down the studio in Nashua. Again, every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 Eastern, the Common Sense Conservatives try to bring you back to reality and solve a few problems. And now I've found that I don't have to use my headphones so much. I can kind of do it this way. I'm going to have to be very careful whenever we go to break to mute everything to make sure that everything's muted properly. So I don't have a live mic or some weird situation over here. For the people watching, I don't have headphones on and it's working out fine. So we're good.
I do that at my home studio sometimes. I don't wear the headphones and it's fine.
Right.
It doesn't seem to affect anything.
Right.
But if I did that in here, I bet you there'd be an echo.
Oh, I'm sure for you because you're in the studio. Yeah.
Yeah. So there shouldn't be. Yeah. I'd have the volume. I don't think I could because I can't have my mic live and the monitor running. So. But I got this buzzing in my ear right now. I don't know what's feeding through, but technology, man, it's great until it ain't. Did you hear anything about this? Well, you've heard about it. What they call it, Neuralink. Elon Musk is trying to develop and.
Right, I've heard about it, but don't ask me to go in depth. I've heard about it.
They're talking about. I remember years ago when I was a kid, they were talking about brain waves, and one day, and like 20, 30 years ago, they were talking about using brain waves for paraplegic or quadriplegic people, so they can move things around. Like if you wanted to have the washer running, turn it on at a certain time, you just have to think about turning it on, and it turns on and does what it's supposed to do. And so they were talking about this, and apparently that's what Neuralink's about. I haven't really looked into this, but I was listening to a video my sister sent me. Now it's a little bit heavy on some of you'll get into some conspiracy thoughts, but apparently Apple's working on something like that, Google's working on something like that, and we know about Neuralink.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah, no, but I know what you're talking about, and I think using brainwaves to be able to do things, control things in a house that's connected, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That sounds like some crazy stuff. You wouldn't think that your brainwaves could have that kind of power.
I mean, well,
computer
how about
or technological thing.
Well, how about this? Now, I mean, with technology we have, in our hands, we have the ability to have appliances that we can control wherever we want to. Like washer, dryer, dishwashers, whatever the case may be. We can control it. To me, I think it's a bit much. It's one more thing that's going to break down. I don't need I don't need to control my dishwasher remotely. I don't need to do that with my, my clothes. I can wash those when I'm at home, no problem. But all the great technology we have, you can pretty much do it anywhere in the world and control your home. I left home and I kept my AC set where I normally keep it when I'm at home. I don't need to do that. It's going to cost me too much money. Let me change that. Versus trying to have somebody show up at your house and change it. Guess what? You can do it at your home on your phone.
That's pretty cool technology. My concern with it is hackers are incredible.
Sure.
And I don't want hackers running my house. Right. I don't think having a camera. See, that's why I don't have a camera. I thought, man, it'd be kind of cool to have some cameras set up in the house. That way I can see. My wife and I just got another dog here the other day, and we're pretty stoked about that. And I was thinking to myself, man, it'd be kind of cool to have some cameras when I'm at work. I can just, stop. I can pull up my phone, look in, and check on the dog, make sure everything's going fine.
Or maybe talk to him, right? Take to your dog on the camera.
Yeah, some people have done that, and but then I'm thinking, me and who else in the world? Right. I don't think I like the idea of other people looking into my home.
Right. Yeah, and of course you can unhook it and all that stuff while you're at home if you wanted to. I know people do that. They'll unhook their whatever you want to call them, nanny cams or whatever. They'll unhook them and put them somewhere. And then whenever they leave, they bring them out, hook them up and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an idea. I remember one time I woke up in the middle of the night, like 20-something years ago or so. I had a laptop computer sitting in my bedroom and it was open. I don't remember.
Right.
I must have left it where it was on, but the screen was blank. But I woke up in the middle of the night. I saw that thing flashing through windows like rapidly. I'm going, "Wow, I never seen it move like that before." And I'm like, "What's going on with my computer?"
That's
And it was
wild.
going through all sorts of windows and stuff. I'm going, somebody's in my computer. I thought
Right.
about the next day. I didn't know much about this stuff. And then
Right, yeah,
somebody
somebody could have
somebody
easily
was in my computer. Somebody was using it for something, or they were looking for things inside my computer. But it was going through windows rapidly. I'm like, wow.
Either that or there was some weird update that was updating and who knows? I don't know.
I don't think it was an update, man. I mean,
No,
we're talking
I'm
about
just
a
saying
Dell
I'm just
computer
saying.
laptop from 19, I don't know what it was. It might have been early 2000s, but yeah, probably about 2004 or something. Yeah, it was about 20 years ago, and those things weren't that good. You know what I mean? They didn't go through Windows that fast. When I'm trying to upload a window, it wasn't going through that fast. We didn't have broadband internet. It was practically dial-up. What was it, like 2G or something? I don't remember, but yeah, it was just I remember seeing stuff like that. I was like, wow, that's not good. So naturally, next day I just shut it down, unplugged it and stuff, and I started thinking, man, they need a disconnect, like you were talking about, like you can just throw a switch, like a light switch or something, that disconnects it from the internet. If you got a phone, back then it was like phone lines and stuff.
Right.
Now it's Ethernet, but man, if you had a switch, you would just be able to throw the switch and you're disconnected. Of course, like you said, you can just shut it off and you're disconnected too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very true.
But your routers and stuff have security software, or your modem.
Right.
So now routers and modems are built in, what you get from Verizon or wherever, AT&T or whoever you get your internet service through. And they got security software in there too. So they got little firewalls and stuff, and still doesn't keep people out. And the main thing is what they call that thing, WASP, I think is what it was called. I can't remember what the acronym stood for. But basically, it'll pick up a transmission, say coming out of your house, out of that. If it's on say your cellular or whatever, they can intercept it, take whatever data out of it, then resend the signal to the tower, and nobody will know that they were in there.
Yep. Oh yeah. People are good at hiding their footprints, or where you can't track them. And you got to think most people in the world who have technology, even if you're the Mr. Tech guy, they're probably not the person who understands every facet of it. You know what I mean? They have the gadgets, but they don't understand how to protect themselves on there. Probably a lot of them. People are very vulnerable. They can buy the stuff at, say, Best Buy or wherever, Amazon, but really knowing the ins and outs and how to protect themselves, they don't really understand that.
No, people don't realize the biggest vulnerability is the human error.
Yeah.
Never use your kids' birthdays. Just don't. I know you want to because it's easy to remember, but you know what? It's also easy to discover.
Yeah.
Things like that. People make those mistakes often. People often will telegraph things too. I mean, like, say using your kid's birthday, it's an easy one, right? Because what do you do when you go on Facebook? Well, I'd like to wish my first daughter, Megan, happy birthday today. She's now 31 years old. Well, that's an easy deduction.
Yeah, let me type that one in. Yep.
Yeah, that's an easy calculation. Next thing you got that password quick. But but they get more and more savvy too. I mean, there's a reason why they got these two-factor authentication crap. All this stuff we hate doing, but now we have to do because these hackers make it impossible to be safe on the internet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and that only allows some level of I don't know, safety, if you will, some security, but it's not going.
Yeah, it's pretty much minimum protection.
Right. But what's funny is people, whenever something happens catastrophic, it's like they quickly want to. Where do we point the finger at? It's like somebody else has to be to blame. It's like, no, you put all your stuff out there. You didn't understand technology. You put all these passwords, all this information inside your phone or your computer, and now all that information is available to somebody who wants to come and find it, or look for it. Anybody who uses your computer, your network, whatever, can find it. Hackers, whatever. So all the information you've put out there. Yeah, granted, it should be safe. People shouldn't be stealing your stuff. Whether it's physical in your house or whether it's on your computer, doesn't matter. People shouldn't be doing it. They're going to. You have to exercise some a little bit of knowledge here. You don't have to be an expert on computers, but understand that anything you put on there, somebody can find it. Somebody can see it. Whatever the case may be, they can exploit it. This includes photos, nude photos, whatever the case may be. You think they're safe in a folder somewhere. You title the folder whatever. Doesn't matter. They can get it all just like that, and they'll figure out what they want to use or discard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Recently my phone died.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I just refused to upgrade my phone, and I ran it out to that battery, just couldn't do it anymore. Poor little guy just wouldn't take a charge, and I had to trade it in to get a new phone.
Yeah. What'd you have
And
beforehand?
I had a Galaxy S8.
Okay, gotcha.
And so now I got the new Galaxy. What is it? The S25, or I don't know if it's a Galaxy. It's just the S25, Samsung S25. Anyway, so I give him the phone, and I take this new phone, and I'm away with it. And then I'm looking at the wife, going, "Wait a minute! I just gave him my phone. I had open windows in there when it died. I had all sorts of stuff in there when it died." So now I'm thinking, oh man, so now I got to sit down and go through all my passwords and change them.
Yeah, right.
Think about you don't know who's getting that phone, even if it may be a reputable company, but you don't know who's working for that reputable company. When they charge that battery up or change that battery out and open that phone up, it's still got to be wiped.
Right.
And they had no way of doing it, I don't think. And so
yeah. Well, one thing to think about is you can take it to like a degauser, basically a battery. Run a big battery, or not battery, excuse me, a magnet.
Yeah.
I said battery, sorry. Magnet over your battery and over your phone and stuff, and it can scramble a lot of that stuff for sure. And it
that's
corrupt a lot of it.
Yeah, but so I gave up my phone, and then I was thinking about later going, oh man, I don't know. I don't trust it. You got PayPal going on, and you got all these things going on, and you don't know what's way they might be able to access what's, and so I was like, yep, time to change all my passwords.
I've got a couple big magnets, and what I'll do whenever I get done with the computer, I run the hard drive over it a few times, and then I'll smash it up pretty good. So
then you smash up the phone?
No, hard drives for computers. My old phones. I still keep my old phones. I have an idea what I want to do with them. I don't know specifically, but I want to get I have a bunch of old phones, like landline phones, from way back, and I have like a progression to this tiny little flip phone, and I'm gonna have them on like a shelf somewhere somehow. I don't know, display that. And I got my iPhones, all my iPhones. I'm gonna have that. Yeah, I've got some ideas for artsy-fartsy stuff.
I got a lot of old phones, but this particular one, I had to trade it in to get the new phone. Otherwise, I could have bought the new phone for $800 and something. I'm like, no, you can have the relic. Just take the relic. I'll rather save the $800.
But
it doesn't work anyway.
Yeah,
and it's not like you could
happening.
If I could have just popped out a battery and popped another battery, I'd still have the relic here with me. I'm just that type of person. And so, but you can't do that nowadays. They're soldered in and stuff. They don't want you changing your battery. They don't want to make it easy for you. They want to make sure you're upgrading, so that they can keep you into their technologies.
Right. Well, here's something. We'll get back to politics for just a second. This is something, and this would be good to have the Colonel on for this one. And it's something I've been thinking about since we set up the Director of National Intelligence, if you will, after 9/11, which is currently Tulsi Gabbard. She is the ODNI, excuse me. Gabbard moves presidential daily intelligence brief staff from CIA to ODNI. Let's see. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard moved presidential daily brief staff from CIA to the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Fox Digital confirmed. A senior intelligence source told Fox Digital that Director of National Intelligence has always controlled, that's in quotes, the presidential daily brief, PDB, that Gabbard is just moving it physically to ODNI from CIA in a streamlining effort and a continuity of workforce, which I think it should have always been there since they set it up and it's been working properly. It's because, think about this, the DCI, the Director of Central Intelligence, that was replaced by the the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI, right? So the ODNI kind of took over that role of Central Intelligence Director. Now you still have a Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, which they're no longer dual-hatted, right? People understand that post 9/11. You took one of the hats from CIA director and made it a Director of National Intelligence. I hope people understand that. I think that presidential daily brief staff should have went with them whenever that happened too. Which glad that it happened. I know the Colonel probably would have some more to say about that.
A little more insight, yeah. I don't know much about what you're talking about.
I mean, I dealt with those.
I definitely am not offering any insight.
Yeah, I dealt with those briefers, on a regular basis. Good people, don't get me wrong. But I think having it within the DNI or ODNI office makes better sense, because that's where all the intel should be flowing to anyway. That's the person who's in charge of all the 17 agencies essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you have individual directors, but you also have this one person who wears the top crown, if you will, within the intelligence community, or the IC. And that's the ODNI.
Huh? You gotta love the acronyms in government. The IC.
Yeah. Intelligence community, right? DNI, ODNI, because the DNI is the individual, the ODNI is the office, right?
Yeah. So
Kind of like
you
the presidency, right? You have the
take
president, then you have the presidency.
You start talking in all those acronyms pretty soon. It's a whole new
Yeah.
language. Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Right. Well, you get to the debate. It's like, what's the presidency? Well, Donald Trump. No, Donald Trump's the president. What's the presidency? Then you got to what is the presidency? The entire executive branch. Is it just the White House? Is it the White House office, which is the very senior staff? So people get into these debates of what makes up the presidency. It's kind of weird. It's kind of wild too.
Is there a conclusion, or is it just a continuous debate, a never-ending debate?
No, I mean you could look at it so many different ways, and you get some pretty intelligent people that will sit there and parse it out. Anyway, it's just.
I kind of would have thought it had anything to do with the functions of the president of the United States of America, but
yeah. But anyway, we got about a few more minutes before the top of the hour break.
Yeah, we got like 10 of them.
Perfect. There we go. We're doing all right, I think. Yeah. But for those who do tune in normally for Colonel Chris White, this will be the last time I say for this hour. We'll do it at the top of the hour next hour. He's still in South Africa. Like John said, he's going to be back over the weekend. So he'll be back in person on the show next week, again, 7 to 9 Eastern every Wednesday night, where we solve the problems of the world and help bring you back to reality, I think, right?
Yeah, there you go. I don't know much problem solving we're doing, but
nothing's
going to be executed, I'm sure.
Yeah, we talk about the problems at least.
Yeah, we'll talk about them. Like Real ID, I wonder how many people are struggling with that one now.
Well, I do know somebody who's trying to get a Real ID at the moment. So yeah,
is he sitting in front of me?
Are they sitting? No, I've got a Real ID.
How about you sitting on the screen in front of me?
Oh, they're sitting over here to my side.
Oh, the missus, huh? Oh, you don't want to call nobody out.
I'm in my own studio. What are you talking about?
Oh, your assistant.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, my assistant. Yeah, right. She does a lot of assisting. I can tell you that. She does most of the work.
That's what I tell people. They're like, "Oh, thank you for the flowers. Oh, I'm glad to hear my secretary did her job."
Yeah, I'm glad my secretary. Don't be calling your wife that. TJ's gonna get mad.
Oh, she knows.
All right. Yeah. What does she call you?
Well, I'm not allowed to say it on radio.
Okay, terrestrial radio. You gotta maybe on the podcast next week. She'll pop on and say what she calls you.
Well, she'll be live tomorrow night, 6 p.m. right there. Again, Truckers Independent Broadcasting.
That's right. Yeah, maybe I'll have
IBN, and she's gonna be doing the brew. So
you have to ask the question.
It might be a brouhaha.
Right. All right. So when did you talk to the colonel on the phone, or he just messaged with you?
Oh no, he just sent me a text message. Right. I don't think he calls when he's in Africa. That would be a
lot of money.
I mean, he could use say well, I think you can even use Messenger or something, from Facebook.
Yeah.
But what is that? WhatsApp. There's a WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah.
You can call anybody on WhatsApp and using your own phone number through the app, and so it'll do an international call with no charge. I think. I hope, because I did it once.
So remember back in the day, the Eric and Lyle Menendez who shot their parents with shotguns back in the day?
Yeah, I was looking at that article a little while ago. I mean, I didn't look at. I looked at the headlines.
Well, apparently, I guess the judges ruled that they can be resentenced. Apparently, so that's interesting.
Oh, so are they going to give them a heavier sentence or a lighter?
No, I think it'll probably be a lighter sentence because all the circumstances that led up to what they did, has now been brought to light or whatever. So, and been found, to be factual, I guess. So I guess they're going to get a resentencing. I don't know how that's going to play out or whatever. I know I was fairly young whenever that happened. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it. I'd be a little bit because he was on the news, kind of like the OJ trial. You pay attention because it's on the news. Of course, OJ, a big an international star at the time. He killed he killed two people, obviously. Eric and Lyle Menendez.
You subscribe to the idea that OJ killed them?
What's that?
You subscribe to the idea that OJ Simpson's guilty?
100%, yeah.
You racist.
Oh, God. He set me up. I love it. Can't we all just get along? I don't know. No, he killed those two people for sure.
I was always kind of questioning that one. There was a few things, and the biggest reason I would question that one is because the cops contaminated their evidence so bad by planting evidence. So they ruined their whole case. They ruined their whole scene by planting evidence.
What I don't know whether they planted anything. Who planted something?
Well, there was blood.
I never heard
came up-
anybody planted anything.
There was blood that came up missing, I think, from OJ. They drew blood or something from him, and then some vials came up missing. And of course, there was some droplets of blood showed up in the carpets, and droplets of blood that showed up in the car, or something like that, that previously weren't there. And
Oh no,
so
they were there. OJ obliterated those people, and he contaminated most of those places. I think. I mean, I don't think anybody went and spread blood around.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know, there's got to be like 100 people in the neighborhood that has size like 20 shoe or something, and
yeah. Well, here's the thing. I mean, they're Bruno Mali shoes, and like he owned those actual shoes.
Yeah.
And there's a pictures and video of him actually doing sideline reporting wearing those exact shoes. And he said, I would never own those ugly Bruno Magli shoes. Those are ugly. I've never owned a pair. And it's like videos and pictures, you know, hundreds of them of like him wearing those exact shoes.
What was her name?
Like,
Marsha, the prosecutor.
Marsha Clark, is that her name?
Yeah, yeah, I think that was it. Marsha Clark.
Yeah,
she insisted he put on the gloves and they didn't.
Chris,
they didn't
what's
fit.
His name, flubbed that case.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. She insisted he put on the gloves and.
Well, that was the Chris Darden. Chris Darden, the assistant attorney. Yeah, he insisted on that. I think he screwed that pooch on that one.
Yeah.
You know, because the gloves at that point had been so wet and stuff they'd shrunk somewhat. Plus, OJ stopped taking his medicine that allowed his hands to swell up. You know, his arthritis medication, anti-inflammatory stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, so his hands swelled up. So there was no way they was going to fit anyway. Plus, they had another set of gloves so as not to contaminate the evidence that he was already wearing, a set of white gloves.
Oh, was there?
Yeah. So and he did like this with his thumb. Like, who puts a set of gloves on like this? Nobody. You know, you put a set of gloves on like this, then you extend your thumb. Nobody puts it on like this and does this with his thumb out routine. Because I've done that with my own gloves that fit perfectly and show how people, I can't get my gloves on. And then put them on normally and they fit right on. No problem. And actually a little bit too big. So that was fake. I mean, yeah, he did that for sure.
Oh, he had a good attorney.
A team of attorneys, an all-star team of attorneys.
I should reword that. You're right.
Yeah, and then they gave rise to the daggone Kardashians to be what they are today.
Yeah, sure did.
Yucks. And, there's some people that believe that one of those Kardashian kids is OJ's kid. Did you know that?
No, I didn't realize that.
Conspiracy theory out there.
Another one. Yeah, no, I did not know. I did not hear. When it comes to Kardashians, I'm pretty much
yeah. I mean, I don't
care. You can tell me news about Kardashians all day long, and I have no memory.
I care two darns about them, and who cares, you know? But
yeah,
if I could do something like if I didn't have a bone in my body that had shame, and if I did what they did, I'd just be a laughing stock. I wouldn't be rich. I think it's Chloe. I think Chloe is rumored to be OJ's kid. I don't know that that's true or not, but there's a lot of people that say, yeah, take a look at her pictures before she had a lot of the surgery. And now, you know, and then look, you know.
So do you want to fess up that your assistant told you that?
Yes, of course she did.
That's how you look at that. Well, I think Chloe.
What? I didn't look off to the side.
No.
For the people on radio, you have no clue though.
No, they were totally buying a hook, line, and sinker.
You're telling on me, John.
Your body language gave it away,
bro. We should be played off here in just a moment, folks. But whenever we get back, we're going to break into a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about OJ, the Kardashians, all the stuff that's pertinent in society today that I know you guys want to really hear about. No, but we'll dive into Donald Trump's Middle East tour and a few other things. I want to tell a few stories about some overseas trips that I've been on in the past. So yeah, we can dive into that. Also want to talk about a book that I just released about veteran suicide, Honor My Best Friend. If you don't mind me plugging that at the top of the hour.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that'd be awesome, man.
Cool. What's our timeline there for playing us off?
What?
What's our timeline there? How many minutes we got?
Oh, we're just into seconds here. Well, actually.
Right. We'll be right back here in a few minutes, folks. Stick around after these messages.
WSMN 1590. WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. President Trump continuing his three-nation Mideast trip, spending the day in Qatar. At a signing ceremony with the Emir, Qatar agreeing, says Trump, to buy Boeing jets.
The president today said that there is about $250 billion in economic deals now with this agreement between the United States and Qatar. And part of that is that deal with Boeing, that they're going to purchase planes in Qatar from Boeing, that the White House says is the largest deal ever for Boeing for wide-body planes and 787s.
ABC's Karen Travers. He's a vaccine skeptic, but Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. told a House committee today,
I don't think people should be taking advice, medical advice from me.
Torrential rains in the mid-Atlantic. They're deadly now. A 12-year-old boy swept away by rushing water on a Virginia roadway. 20-year-old Phoenix Ickner indicted today 9 felony counts, including first-degree murder charges for last month's shooting at Florida State University that left 2 people dead, 7 wounded. This is ABC News. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's waiting to see who from Russia will attend ceasefire talks in Turkey tomorrow. Russian President Vladimir Putin proposed restarting talks, and Zelensky called on Putin to attend in person. The Kremlin so far refuses to confirm who will attend. The Israel Defense Forces Wednesday evening issuing a new evacuation order for the southern part of the Rimmel neighborhood in Gaza City, warning it will attack the area with extreme force, targeting Hamas.
It comes after President Trump signaled a significant policy shift on Gaza, saying he's now working to end the war. Ceasefire negotiations are underway in Qatar today, and French President Macron launching a blistering attack on Israel's aid blockade of Gaza, calling it a, quote, disgrace.
ABC's Tom Sophie Borage. The Commerce Department has rescinded a Biden-era rule that puts limits on the number of artificial intelligence chips that could be exported to certain international markets without federal approval. Dave Packer, ABC News.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code EARN to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code EARN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code EARN for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago. Servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like Todd has not quite made it back to his microphone yet. So I will be opening up the second hour. What am I opening up with? So I'm waiting for the gentleman to make his way back. Wisconsin judge indicted for helping illegal immigrant evade ICE. See, we all heard this story, right? The Wisconsin judge who allegedly helped an illegal immigrant or migrant evade immigration authorities was indicted by a federal jury Tuesday. Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan was led away in handcuffs while still in her black judicial robe last month after being accused of obstruction of justice and concealing Mexican national Eduardo Flores Ruiz from federal law enforcement at the end of the pretrial. So she is going to be facing consequences for her actions, as you know. And Todd is clapping.
I'm clapping. That's what you hear, ladies and gentlemen. I'm clapping. I love it. That's good.
Yeah.
You're not above the law just because you wear a black robe. I'm sorry. Just because you're a government official, you're not above the law. In fact, you should obey the law even more so while serving in government, whether you're local, state, or federal official. You should venture more so to obey the law. I believe that.
Well, absolutely. They're supposed to set the standard.
Right.
Make the example.
You raised your right hand to support, to swear that oath, support, defend the Constitution. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you agree with legislation or whatever, it's besides the point. I don't know how many times in the Army, 20 years in the Army, you hear, you may not agree with what Congress has just passed or what the president has just signed or said, but that's not for us to decide that. We can vote. That's about it. We're not allowed to go out and express our opinion while in uniform or while serving. We have to carry out those laws. We have to carry out those orders, etc. We may disagree with it, but guess what? If it's lawful and legal, we have to obey. We're obliged to do so. And I believe that. In a civil society, in a world full of rules and laws and Constitution, etc., we must follow that. And if we say, "Oh, I don't like that because it was a Democrat, it was Obama, it was Biden, or whoever," then all of a sudden, whenever it's your person, you can't get bent out of shape when somebody says, "Well, I'm not going to obey that because it's Trump or it's Reagan or it's whoever." Sorry.
Yeah, the Democrats did make sure we're quite well aware that nobody's above the law. They announced that so frequently the last 4 years that we're never going to forget.
While they were doing things illegally and unconstitutionally, they were saying it. So I don't know. Maybe they believe it in theory, but they don't believe it in practice and reality.
I like this whole thing about violating due process. Trump administration is violating due process, and that's just not right. Due process needs to be respected. It is a constitutional right, yada yada yada. Right? It is Fifth Amendment right, and it's there. And I agree with due process, just like everybody else does. But the thing of it is, you got to take that. So the thing of it is that Trump is actually not violating due process. A lot of the people that they're accusing him of violating due process on were already have been ruled against, and he's following something called expedited removal, and it's an actual thing. So, but while at the same time, the left violated everybody's due process when it comes to J6 and arresting people for J6 and not giving them a speedy trial like they're supposed to, and in fact, their incarceration and stuff, they tortured them. Literally, they put them through torturing techniques and stuff. It was a miserable thing. And it's like it's as if both of us over. You got phone rings and I'm bumping the microphone.
Right.
But yeah, it's as if darn, I just lost my train of thought.
No, that happens to me. Hey, welcome to be getting old, right, John?
Oh my God, yeah. I've been running like a chicken with its head cut off lately, and it wears down on you, man, when you're not sleeping at night and you're trying to get stuff done. And I'm not making up excuses. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm getting old.
Yeah, no, that happens, and I get that, and we're human beings. But I think this visit to the Middle East, I want to go back to that really quick because I'm reading a story here, kind of off on the side, but I think this is going to bear a lot of fruit. We talked about, the tariffs that he's put in place. We're not seeing the fruits of the tariffs, and he's backing away from it. And all of a sudden, he goes over here. I think he's going to come back with a lot of deals, and you're going to say, "See, tariffs worked. Tariffs were at least the threat of tariffs."
Oh, they're already. I mean, China came to the table over the weekend,
and in that way, the threat of tariffs worked. Whether the tariffs themselves worked, besides the point, it's the threat.
Well, they were in place. I mean, on both sides, and it was an issue for both sides. I'm not going to say that we weren't hurting or won't be hurting some from the effects of it, but at the same time, Trump said that we have to make new deals. We have to recreate our deals with people like China because they're unfair, unbalanced trade deals, and without balanced and fair trade deals, the United States of America doesn't stand well with it. If anybody remembers when Trump took ran for office in 2016. I distinctly remember him saying, "It's not that I'm against global, New World Order or globalization. It's that I want to make sure America's first in it."
Sure.
That's what I recall hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. So not that we're not moving forward in this thing called globalization. It's
Right.
that Trump's going to make sure that we have fair trade deals. Trump's going to make sure the United States of America keeps its strengths through
Right.
through moving forward with all this new things that are going to be happening in this globe. And this is why I tell people you need to be involved, because some of these things probably aren't going to be very nice and you're not going to like the outcome. But at least the United States of America will be better, well suited, stronger in the globe and its position in the globe, holding its
Right.
power. So we're not going to be subjugated to other people's abuses. And I don't know about you, but when I was looking at China and how they were building their strengths and they were growing, and they're doing so fairly rapidly when you think about it. It might have been a few decades, but for some nations, that's pretty rapid growth, if you look at history. And so the fact that China was rising to be a superpower and wanted to be the ultimate superpower in the globe and replace us, and it was as if people like Joe Biden was handing it to them. And so it's refreshing to know that Trump is there doing the job and turning this around now and repositioning us in the globe and sustaining our position in the globe, that we will remain the superpower, and we need to, because maybe we're not a perfect country. But we've been a darn good country to this globe. We've been a darn good country to this world throughout the decades. And I can't think of anybody's done a finer job as far as it comes to international leadership.
Well, I appreciate you saying that about me, John. Thank you very much for having me on your show tonight. No, I'm just kidding.
That's exactly the setup I had in mind for you there, Mr. McKinley.
Show tonight. Yeah,
are you by any chance the second coming of William McKinley or?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's it. If I don't start exercising, I will be soon. I tell you.
Yeah, we all got that problem. That's the aging thing you were talking about earlier.
He was a hefty, good-looking man. I can tell you that. From Ohio. Yeah, absolutely. No, love what you said there, John. I appreciate it. You lost your train of thought, but guess what? You found another a line of thinking, and I think you ended on a good note there. Really good.
Well, I kind of thought so. USA. That's the one thing I loved out of
the 80s.
9/11 was 9/11 was terrible. And
horrible.
But when they were at Ground Central and at the
Ground
World
Zero,
Trade, Ground Zero at the World Trade Center, and the firemen were chanting USA, US. I mean, that was, what that took me back to. I don't know how well you might remember this. I think you might have been born right about then. It was 1976. Hot dogs, baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet, man. Those were the ads. Everything was American back in 1976 because it was the bicentennial year. And we were all just together. I mean, this country was just phenomenal in 1976.
Well, I remember
that year.
Yeah. Well, I remember. I mean, I was born in 78, mind you, but those early 80s where you'd see all these different things from the bicentennial that was still up, paintings and pictures and stuff that was still up, People still had that USA. We were going to win the Cold War. We were on the precipice of winning it. People loved America. We were winning around the world. Reaganomics. I mean, whatever you want to say there. People were feeling prosperous, whether they were truly prosperous or not. Led to prosperity, I think, in the 90s because people were optimistic.
Oh yeah.
People you go to a baseball game, like, say a local minor league game. And it would break out in USA, like a 7th inning stretch or something. People, USA, both teams fans, USA. And then all of a sudden you go back to rooting for the team. It's kind of fun. I loved it.
So, what next year is, don't you?
260, right?
250.
250, yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry,
1776 to
I don't know why.
2026 would be our 250-year celebration, which would be a bicentennial year. Or semi-quincentennial or sesquicentennial. Oh, there's several different terms. I had to just look it up while you were talking. Okay. And but so that we might feel a bit of that sense of patriotism and right at the right time while Trump is president, we're seeing all this Americanism coming back again with the growth of economy and jobs. And well, at least I think there might be jobs because there's big talks about replacement of robotics and artificial intelligence.
Right.
But at the same time, the objective was to put people back to work for those that want to work. But it's really, we're living in a time of Americanism once again under Trump. Well, this is America first.
Right. Well,
and so that's the perfect time to be celebrating the bicentennial or whatever year.
Don't try to say that again.
No, it might come out wrong.
Yeah, I love it.
As if it didn't already. It's already from the LGBTQ plus something group, right?
Yeah, they're gonna start picketing outside the window there. Rage.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean, really, honestly, it's a great time to be celebrating that
yeah
250 year event.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And think about this: we're in an age of a reindustrial revolution, if you will, where we're going into the tech revolution, another tech revolution. If you think about it, you had the '90s, you had the dot coms and all that, and then of course you had people in the early 2000s, people adopting technology. You got into the smart devices, all this stuff. Now we're talking about AI and all sorts of other things to help make our life easier. But here's the thing: if we human beings don't use the technology to make our lives easier, it's just going to be like social media is now, where we just use it to attack people and post stupid cat videos. We could use it to honestly make things better for ourselves, make things better for everybody around us if we used it properly. But we human beings have to embrace it and use it properly. We can't just be a-holes. A new way to be an a-hole here. No, let's use it, and embrace it properly. And AI is nothing different than say the car or whatever changed the dynamic of whatever was going on at that time when it was invented. AI is going to be that if we use it responsibly.
Yeah, no, I'm up in the air on a lot of this technology, but
Yeah.
you're right. We've been in the fourth industrial revolution known as technology.
No, I don't believe like we talked
a long
about this
time. But you're right. We're in advanced stages of it now.
Yeah.
We're reaching a new level, and we're going to grow in this new level. Some of it's going to bring back our economy and bring back some of our national strengths that we were talking about. I understand that. I'm not too fond of the possibilities like you're referring to, the possibilities of it. Like say cryptocurrency. I've been looking at cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, maybe I should invest. I've always been against it because I've always looked at the downside of it, the tracking. And, there comes a time when if you're using cryptocurrency as a currency, then eventually they're going to know everything you spent. You're going to lose your privacy.
Sure.
You're going to lose a lot of things that I, as an individual, value.
Right.
And I think a lot of people value that, have that same value.
And that would be especially a government-backed currency, whereas you had like a private alternative cryptocurrency market, which I think there should be. But here's the thing. You run the risk getting into that. You know what I mean? How much trust do you have in it is based on who's involved in it, who's not scamming people, in an exchange. But if you get into a government exchange currency or whatever they decide to call it, then guess what? Then they're going to know every purchase, whatever, and they shouldn't know every purchase, for crying out loud.
So that I believe is USDC, United States Digital Coin, I believe is what it's called. I'm not positive on that, but it's USDC. And so I think that's what's called a stable coin. So
right. Now, if you want
coins and you have crypto, on the market, stable coins are only worth $1. You invest in you buy stable coins today, and 40 years from now, they're worth whatever you invested into them today. That's what they're designed to be. And that's what you're talking about, using crypto for a currency and where government can track you. But the thing about it is, Todd, so let's go back to the electronic logging device. I like to bring that up from time to time. So the United States government forces truck drivers to buy an electronic logging device. This device is meant to track the hours of service of truck drivers. Now, truck drivers squawked and said, well, this is also a privacy violations issue. And the United States government says, well, no, it's not. Actually, it was the FMCSA, which is the agency that regulates trucking. They say it's not because, and this is argued in court, it's not because, well, we're not the ones doing it. It's third party. So it's the corporations that are providing the service, and they're the ones that have all the monitoring, and they have everything there. And it's only for tracking your hours of service. And the thing that people overlook in that is you've got what's called a juridical person or artificial person. That's a business. Okay. You as an individual is a natural person, which falls under natural law, which means you have natural rights. And that's what our Bill of Rights is based upon. So when they force you to use a device, or if you select to use a device like cryptocurrency or something that's in your car, when you purchase a car, it's got tracking devices too. And all this is data collecting. And your privacy is being sacrificed with this. But when it's a juridical person, they don't have the same rights. And this is what the FMCSA argued in the courts was the Hamburg versus New York case, where he was a salvage yard owner, which he had a home on that property, but the police come in to investigate for stolen property, cars, basically, that he'd taken in some cars that were stolen.
Right.
And
And I know you've talked about this before.
They found this, right?
Yeah.
So their argument was, well, we have right to privacy. You can't just come in here without a warrant. And the court ruled, yes, because you're an artificial person, they don't need a warrant and you're open to the public, so the police can just come and investigate. Now, if it was his home on that property, it would have been a different story. So they're saying the same thing with the ELD, is that because it's a business, you don't have the same rights as an individual. And the problem is the truck is different because you live in the truck. You use a truck for personal reasons too.
Right. It's a domicile, right?
So now the government's saying, well, we're not the ones tracking you. It's that third party. But in order to use that third party's device, you have to sign a waiver saying you have no right to proprietary information, meaning the information you provide, that they're collecting all that data. They're taking ownership over it. You don't get to use it, but you need it by law, but you don't get to use it unless you sign that waiver away, or that right away on that waiver. So now they've taken it from you for you to be in compliance to the law. And now the federal government can pretty much say, because you're not an official person, we can acquire that data whenever we want it. So now this is a backdoor policy to violate your rights.
Right.
So this is what's going on in the United States. There are things people don't think about. They don't think in depth about how our rights are being lost or how our rights are being violated, or worse yet, how you were being enslaved and not knowing how well you're being enslaved. When they force you to use a product, and they collect that data that you provide, and they take ownership over something you rightfully own, your proprietary information. They take ownership over it, and they force you to buy it. So now they own your work. They own that and take that from you and make money off you. That's not, tell me that's not slavery. It's not direct slavery like abject slavery.
Right.
You know, cracking a whip on somebody's back and forcing them to work. But at the same time, it's slavery. You're taking and forcing somebody into something and taking everything from them for your own personal profit. That's a form of slavery. It's basically under like what I would say it's slavery under technocracy.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and this is what I see. I see that we're getting into this technology, and we're using technology in various ways that are causing people to forfeit. And these corporations or individuals are gaining huge off from it. So this is one of my concerns about technology. I think we're just being roped in all the time, and we don't realize how we're taking advantage of it. You look like you got something on your mind there. Were you looking
I'm clicking around. I'm waiting for you. I'm listening to your point there. Yeah. No, I can see what you're saying. Whether it's direct slavery or abject slavery, like you said, or something else, it's certainly underhanded. Whatever.
Yeah, if you're being forced into it, if your hand is being forced into it, and you have to do it by law, I'm sorry, but they're stripping you of your monetary worth. They're stripping of you of your gains, and they're profiting off you.
Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah, and you shouldn't be able to, be forced to sign away your rights. If you're being forced to use something, and then all of a sudden you still have to sign something. No, I'm sorry. No, I should be able to object to it. I should be able to click the object box.
Well, you can object to it, and then they say, well, then we can't provide you a service. You go to the next guy, and he's got the same thing. So, like, say with the transportation.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you think about it, like, if the government says you must use these devices, whatever, but it's the third party that's providing it, you must fill out these documents. It's like, well, I don't want to. Well, now you can't drive, you can't get this, you can't do all this,
Exactly. So you're stuck. You have to accept it. You're forced into it, more or less. You're not forced into it, but yet you are. And I love the answer where, like, I looked at a cop and said, "This ain't right. This is what you're doing isn't right." Yeah, you're gigging somebody for the law, but the law puts somebody into a precarious situation where you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. What does a guy do? He says, "Listen, nobody told you had to be a truck driver. If you don't like it, find something else to do." That's a BS statement, man. We need truck drivers. We need people to do the work. Why be abusive about it?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a stupid statement. And to me, if any police officer makes that statement, I mean, that's a stupid statement. Here's what you do. You cite the law, you cite the code, and you're law enforcement. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, you don't say don't be a truck driver. Take it up with your state legislator, take it up with your congressman, get the law changed. It's a bullshit. Pardon me.
Did you say bullshit?
Bullshit law. Yeah, I almost said it. That's a bullshit law. I said shirt, SHIRT. And it really is. But you're there to enforce it. You can say, hey, listen, I get it. It's bupkis. I have to enforce it. You violated it. Here you go. You can fight it in court, whatever. And then you move on. You never tell somebody that what their profession is stupid. That's ridiculous.
People do that, and sometimes they're told to say things like that. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
working with just or safety directors and stuff, talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
listen, there's no parking in the truck stop. What am I supposed to do? I have nowhere to stop. I have to move on to find a place to stop. Oh no, just circle the wagon, driver. Do you realize how this works out here in the real world, or are you just making
Yeah.
stuff up off the top of your head? But they tell them to say these things.
I don't know how many times, and this is the stuff that don't get reported. You see these videos every now and then, though, like what happens in the yard, basically. As you're circling, what happens? Somebody's trying to pull out, you ding them, you clip them, whatever. You see those videos all the time from those dashboard cameras from truck drivers, and it's like, this is what you're doing. You're piling up parking, now you're making a dangerous situation. Now this guy wants to go take a shower. Now he's got 30 trucks. He's got to, it's kind of like what was that Stephen King with the Maximum Overdrive, basically, the truck circling? It's kind of like that now.
Well, that was the
truck
trucks around themselves, which technically now can happen because they're all digital.
Right. Yeah. Now you're going to have digital trucks. So now trucks aren't driving themselves. Yeah. Never mind the aliens taking over, or the comet.
Stephen King was way ahead of him. So I was
in that
laughing
story,
at that
it's just
movie.
the government's the comet, right? At this point, they're taking over.
I was laughing at that movie. They're showing like stick shift shifting on there. I'm like, well, who's shifting it? And my
I
friends
know,
going, they're just like, it's like they're being controlled from.
I know.
I'm like, that's Bullstein. They're mechanical. This can't happen. But now,
bullshit.
Or it's a bullshit. But now it's it's not impossible that somebody can do something like that.
Now, it's funny. Is like Stephen King if he wrote it now, it'd be perfect. But that truck with the clown on front of it shifting gears, I'm like, how? Is there an invisible alien that we don't know about? Is there a ghost?
It's too late. It's too late for him to write it now because he's so liberal. You'd have to put like a DEI references all through it and LGBTQ. Like,
the government was on to something with the with the electronic logging devices and having autonomous trucks. It was the people who got it wrong.
I think Stephen King would write it in the way of, because Donald Trump took away DEI technology and AI took offense and fought back.
AI
rise of
took
the
over.
machines.
AI was more of a humanitarian than Donald Trump, and that's why they took over and killed everybody. Wait a minute,
right.
That don't add up. But it killed all Republicans. Oh God.
Poor Stephen King. He's so lost.
I know.
But I never thought he was that great of a writer anyway. I mean, it was all
he is a talent. Come on, we got to give it to him.
No, I don't. But I mean, I did like Pet Cemetery. I mean, there were some things I liked, but I'm gonna deny everything. But I don't know some of his stories and stuff. Well, I remember reading his books, and I just felt like he could spend about 30 or 40 pages describing a rock, how much shape and weight and color and the way the shadow reflected off the rock from the
what about
fast
Christine?
glow of the moonlight. It's like, what is this nonsense? Are we going to get on with the story? We're going to read about this rock.
What about Christine? Did you like that?
Actually, that was another Maximum Overdrive, was it? But it was kind of cool. It was
it was kind of cool because it didn't try to explain it. Because at the end of Maximum Overdrive, it explained a comet went over or something stupid. That was dumb. Plus.
It was a haunted car. Yeah.
Plus, the shifting gears thing was stupid. But the haunted car thing, and it, the demonic element to it, that made it fun and scary. Like how is it doing that? You suspend belief in reality. You don't have to explain that.
Or the Carrie thing.
Carrie, yeah, right. Look at the double. Yeah, right. Carrie, yeah, that was some wild ones. And they made several of those over the years, remakes and so forth. But the original one was Sissy Spacek, right? I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Heck of an actress. Yeah.
But you got to remember.
Oh God, Jason Voorhees, and those guys so stupid too. Like he's in space. He died as a kid, but somehow he grows up. How did that happen? Then Michael Myers. That's another one where it's like he should be dead, but he's alive. But there's a demonic. There's a backstory too. I read some backstory. There's a demonic group that held some sort of thing, and he's possessed or something. That's why he can't die.
It was Satanists in the woods resurrected him or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know the backstory. I'm just throwing it in there.
But those started out so. I mean, in the 70s and 80s. That's the slasher film. You don't have to explain it. It doesn't have to be based in reality. That's just the fun of it. To getting away from it. How would you defeat Jason? Just don't go to Camp Crystal Lake.
when you're 8 years old, man, that's great entertainment. That's definitely hiding under the covers entertainment.
Oh yeah,
I remember watching things like Night of the Living Dead. I must have been about 7 years old watching that with my older brother. 11:30 at night. I wasn't even supposed to be up watching Night of the Living Dead. Okay, Saturday morning, my father's going to work on Saturday, and he looks at me. He goes, "Well, your brother's going out with friends. The other two are going with your mother someplace. So you're going to work with me. Well, my father worked in a funeral home.
Oh, oh no. No.
So when you're 7 years old and you just watch Night of the Living Dead, your eyes get big as saucer. You're like, oh no.
Wow. You had to be tough, right?
Yeah, it was kind of freaky. Always
Or just sit in the office.
You're always waiting for bodies to jump out at you out of the coffins. It ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. No, not gonna happen. They gone.
Yeah.
But
So-
anyway, I nitpick zombie movies too, though. Like, I'm like Night of the Living Dead or whatever. It's like, how do they come out of the grave? Like, it's like
Yeah,
all the
it's
recent
dumb.
dead. It's like, well, how do they get out of the grave? Like,
So
that's
they're
6 foot of
weak,
dirt.
they're weak and they're clumsy and they got no coordination, but
That's
they managed
6
to have the
foot of
strength to
dirt
climb
on
out of a
top of
grave.
on top of a door, a coffin, lid being closed. I mean, how much does that weigh? And you just climbed right out of it? Well, come on.
Yeah, you're not coming out of that. You got 4 feet
No.
of dirt on top of you. You're
No.
done.
So, but I did love those movies. Those are great, But like say the Walking Dead or whatever, that whole series, good fun storyline, and it's intended to tell the story from the human perspective, not zombies. I get it, but I nitpick that as well. I'm like, how can this thing survive? I'll use air quotes on that one, underwater or without air, without it annoys the heck out of me, without any blood in their body. Like, how's it still chomping with just a skull? Is it? I don't get it. Whatever, but it's fun. It's entertaining. Suspend
That's
belief,
the
whatever.
point. It's just fun. You're not
I
supposed to. There's not supposed to be any real logic behind it. It's just kind of fun and creepy.
I know.
It's-
And there's times I start to nitpick, and I'm like, oh, let me stop. Like the action.
I'll tell you.
movies,
I'll tell you where I nitpick is when, over time, you see the zombies like their bodies are deteriorating, right?
Right.
But this is supposed to be years and years and years of creation, right? Of these people living through the zombie apocalypse. Yet there's just like these healthy, if you want to call them healthy zombies running around mad. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like,
those are-
where do
yeah.
all these zombies keep coming from?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are billions of people on the earth, though. There would be zombies for a while because
Well,
people
I mean,
wouldn't
it
die all
all
at the same
happened at
time,
one
though.
time, but I mean,
they're not
yeah,
gonna
it
die all
was
at the
just
same
kinda
time.
herds and herds of zombies. I'm just
But this is actually a good thought exercise, but you have to base it in reality. You can't be like space aliens or whatever. You got to tackle each one of these questions, and it helps people solve problems. What would you do with X, Y, Z, whatever? You give the parameters, base it in reality. None of this fantastical. I have a special gem I can push, or I can push a button and I zip to another multiverse. But base it in reality. You can help people solve problems. And then all of a sudden, hey, you can solve this zombie apocalypse problem. How would you survive? Well, now all of a sudden, the water's out, the water treatment facility's out. Solve that problem. Well, I can solve that problem. I just solved zombie apocalypse. That's a lot worse, right? And so
right.
you get people to start thinking of problem solving by entertaining things that are fantastical but fun, and people engage in things that are fun. So like in the DoD, for example, people are like, oh, the DoD has a zombie apocalypse plan. It's like, not really. We don't think there's going to be zombies, but they war game these things to get people to think, think outside the box. How would you do this? How would you do this? Now let's take zombies out of it. Now plant China or North Korea, nuclear apocalypse. Now let's do that. Or, let's say it's a chemical warfare, biological warfare. Now let's transplant it. And now there's no zombies, but now we're fighting this. So it's a good exercise for people who are thinking to solve problems before they even become problems.
You mean development for survival skills during
Right.
such a circumstance?
All sorts of stuff like that. Yeah. And it is interesting to see some of these big brain people in these rooms just talking through all this stuff,
So you got to think about it during wartime and stuff. Say World War I, World War II. I mean, civilians were affected by these wars in Europe, and they were displaced, and they actually had to survive during wartime. So
sure,
you kind of have a good point in that and you hear about people in casualties and stuff, in the crossfire or whatever that were trying to hide in the building they were in, got blew up or something. And
yeah.
So I mean, there's some logic into what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, people in the U.S. and I'm not going to blanket this for everybody. But you have the big game talkers, it's like, and I always bring this up, Second Amendment types, and I love the Second Amendment. Don't get me wrong, 100%. But it's people that have no basis in reality in the world. They've never been anywhere else in the world. That's fine. But it's always USA #1, all this stuff. It's like, but you've never had famine, people that are dying of hunger or people that are starving. I mean, you drive down any street in America, it's fast food, fast food, fast food,
You forgot the Depression, or we just talking about modern times?
Right now. I'm at right now, but a bunch of fat people dying of heart disease, diabetes, all these things that are unpresentable.
I take offense to that.
I know, I'm out of shit too. Don't get me wrong, but think about this. And then they're going to go around the globe, and you're going to critique somebody who's dying in a country that's dying of famine. You know, if only they did this and this, you know, it's like, no, I'm sorry. If we had stuff that some of these countries have had to deal with over the centuries in the U.S., we wouldn't be the big prosperous country that's killing ourselves with first world problems, meaning too much horrible food and all these other things that we do, and the technology that we use, and not such a nice manner. Sometimes we could use technology to better our lives and make other people's lives better, but we use it to harass people and stuff like that. Think about it. Think about if
Doxing people on the internet.
Think about it. I mean, but we're blessed in this country, and a lot of people just don't truly understand and get it because they've never seen or been anywhere.
Yeah,
I could have went on a big tangent there real quick, but people just got to realize kind of where they're at and assess, you know, based up their assessment in reality. You know, this whole idea we're number one. It's like in what specifically? Heart disease,
in
diabetes,
winning. I think they mean in winning,
or you know, because it's certainly not in our test scores whenever it comes to school. It's certainly not in all sorts of other areas of metrics that we measure prosperous nation. And yeah, we and that's not me putting America down. There's a lot of soul searching I think we need to do to become a better nation, to become, you know, better to ourselves, to our own country.
So to your point, do you think that we're regressing when it comes to morals and standards?
I think in some areas for sure, some individuals, and we elect a lot of these people, and we say, "Oh, it's okay because God's guided them because they've, you know, because anyway, to run for office in America, especially if you're going to run as a Republican, you have to talk about God all the time, and you have to make people think that you are the biggest Christian in the entire world. I mean, or that God's somehow using you to do these things. I know I've not been Mr. Perfect, but God's behind me. I know He spoke to me. Well, I can't be against you because God's behind you. And people stop and won't call somebody out because, well, they've claimed the high ground with religion. And I think we should be able to call out our elected officials regardless of who they are.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You don't. If you've done something wrong as a moral human being, you should have to atone to that. And if you're an elected official, you should have to atone to it for the voters or to the voters.
What was that movie they did on George W. Bush?
Oh yeah, there was a few of those. There was W.
He made that. I think that was it. W. I think it was plainly named titled W.
Yeah,
and he made that statement where he's, "I won't be out Christianed again."
Right, out Christian again, and we see that in our politics, man. It's not enough that you're a good Christian and you do what you're supposed to do as a good person, a good human being, good Christian. They have to ensure that you know all about how great of a Christian that they are. And to me, whenever you're running for public office, if you're you know, whether you're a mouthpiece for somebody or whether you're the candidate themselves, if that's the first thing you run out and have to convince me of, I have to scratch my head and say, what are you hiding? Something done that. Why are you trying to convince me of that first off? You know, because I think you're probably hiding something out there. If you're a good Christian, I'm going to know that because the works and the things that you do in your life and community, it's going to show. I'm going to be able to see that. You don't have to run out and convince me. Let's talk policy. Let's talk ideas and other things. I'll be able to figure out all the other things about your moral and your character as you campaign. But don't try to shut me down as a voter or blocks of voters.
That's exactly what.
And that's what they try to do.
That's what
they try to do. That's kind of my point there.
Get you to drop your guard. That's what
right. Exactly. And it's like, well, you get people that say, well, I can't. It makes it harder for them to actually scrutinize somebody. So and so is a good Christian. But they're saying that they are. Are they really? Have you done any investigation on them? But it shuts so many people down from doing any real investigation because they said they were, and I can't question that.
Even Obama held a Bible and went to church.
Sure.
Even though he's not, I don't think by all my beliefs, I don't think he's anything but Muslim. But yeah.
I mean, even if he's not Muslim, you know, he's certainly not Mr. Christian, but he played that up at a time when he needed it. Absolutely. And a lot of people allowed it. Said, well, he's half white and he's Christian. So a lot of people in America were like, I guess he's all right. You know, you get some of those racist people that are like, well, he's half white. Like, don't vote for somebody. Don't vote for somebody based on race.
No, that was
based on their policies and principles.
That's the issue with the left, as they're always doing that. You know, the first black president, the first black woman in space. Did you forget such and such? I forgot her name too.
No, but I'm talking about like the old school, like the people that are still Democrats, but they're from the racist era of Democrats, which is still today, I guess. But they were like, well, he's half white, so I can vote for him, because back in the day they probably wouldn't have voted for a black guy. You know what I mean? And I heard people say that. You know, I'm like, well, that's a weird rationalization.
It is
to be able to vote for somebody. That's so weird.
That is weird. That
And
you know
I've
what
heard
that is?
people-
That's the problem with that is that's a dedication and commitment to their party without reason.
Right.
And
Exactly.
they so they got to justify why it is they're doing it, even though it goes against their own standards or ideals about
Right.
things. And so yeah, never would I be voting for somebody based on their skin color. I don't care what their skin color is. It's whatever their skin color doesn't matter. But
Yeah, it shouldn't
as
matter.
as Martin Luther King said, you know, it's all about the content of their character.
Well, and
I
it's
use
funny,
his words.
And the left don't believe in that now.
No.
The left don't believe in that now.
No, they're
And
all about the
I
party.
had
This
some-
is the problem where we're seeing unfold is that, and it always has been, Todd. It's always been about the party. And I'm not going to claim that the right's any exception because I've seen things within the GOP that I absolutely didn't like, and I didn't think was any exception to what the left is doing.
Right.
And you know, it's about controls, it's about agendas, and we got two factions that are basically listed as corporations within the United States government that's trying to run this country. And it's not about your and my will. It's not about what we want. It's not about what we think is right for this country. It's about what these parties think are right for this country. And the left has been rotten about it, man. They've engaged in political warfare to no end for 8 years now. I mean, they've been horrid.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. If you don't mind, let me shift gears real quick. I want to touch on the book I'm trying to sell. And it's called, for those of you who are on Amazon, it's called Those Left Behind: Veteran Suicide and My Late Best Friend Brad Bush. And look up Todd A. McKinley if you can't find it that way on Amazon. I'd love everybody to support this book because what I'm doing is I'm going to donate the profits to the American Legion. It's going to support what is called Be the One. And if everybody gets a chance to Google Be the One or American Legion Be the One, or 988, the suicide hotline or whatever, it's basically going to go support the American Legion's Be the One program to help end veteran suicide. So that's where the profits are going to go. So yeah, we published it and it was finally available for people to purchase a few days ago. Some orders have come in, but I'd appreciate anybody who could help me there. Very much go a long way for sure.
Awesome. No, that's the name of the book is Be the One.
No. So so the book, let me say that again really quick here. Let me bring up the website so you can, I'm going to share this with you real quick. So I'm bringing it up. Sorry. In the chats, but it's called Those Left Behind: Veteran Suicide and My Late Best Friend Brad Bush. So I'm going to pop this in our private chat here too. So you'll have it. There we go. I had to bring it back up. So there you go, John. You have that in the private chat.
Oh, that's a long link.
Yeah, that well, here, let me try this here. Regardless, it'll take you there. You're fine.
Yeah, I know. I got it.
Let me know if it works.
Oh my God, you get right there off that leftist shopping site there.
Amazon. but it's the easiest way. It's the easiest way to publish a book. I can tell you that.
I hate to say it, but one of the benefits about Amazon, and I hate to say it, but they're a unique platform where a small guy can actually fit in on Amazon, be able to sell off Amazon. They're not just like say Walmart or something. We're strictly just Walmart doing
right.
So people can do quite well. But yeah, okay. So this is Those Left Behind: Veteran Suicide and My Late Best Friend Brad Bush.
Yep.
All right, cool. So
appreciate you.
I thought
promote that
I thought
wherever.
if I took it here, I could get. Wait, see if they got a share thing here.
Or you could chat with Billy Painter if there's anybody who needs a guest on some shows that he needs to hawk somebody. I'd love to. I have a reason to go on somebody's show now to talk about the book.
Oh, absolutely. You know what?
Right.
Billy's listening right now. Billy, you just heard that, bro. So be sure to get. You know Todd's number.
Caravan to midnight would be great.
Well, let's.
I'd love to be a guest back on there again. That's a great show. I love that show, and I love the voice too.
You can.
Caravan
I
to
think.
midnight.
I don't want to start talking in Billy's place here, but I do believe they do have a application to be a guest on the show, don't they?
Right. Yeah, I may have to put my name back out there. Yeah.
Yeah, you just apply, and well, I think Billy's the person who's going to receive your application anyway. Billy, wink, wink.
Winkety wink. Billy, I was going to text Billy anyway at some point next day or so.
So yeah, I got to figure out a place to put this link. Yeah, I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna take and.
I'll send you a better link. It's shorter than that. So.
Yeah, do that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in the description. So from here on out in shows we can.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get you a shorter link than that. Actually, if you go to that website, up at the top, there's a little button you can click link. It'll say copy link, and it's a lot shorter link. It says share on Facebook, whatever. Click is a little button there.
Well, I was looking for that, and while we were talking, and I don't know, I didn't see.
Yeah,
I didn't see it, but just send
so
it
yeah,
to me,
if you
man.
go to the top where it has the name of the book, there's like a little arrow, a little thing that says share. The little share.
Oh! I
Yeah,
got you. I got
click
you.
that, and it'll come up. It'll say copy link, and it'll be a shorter link for you.
That thing that almost looks like a download button.
There you go. Yeah, it looks like a download button, but it's not a download button because it's going the other way, which means share. Hello, and not CHER share.
You know, I
So it
thought
looks like
social
she's still
media
30, I
gave
guess.
us the arrow that kind of hooks up and to the right for
Yeah.
share. You know, why don't everybody just be universal? Why do we have to make up new things?
I know.
But it's not working, Todd.
All right.
Refreshed. We'll refresh.
There you go. So we
There
got
it
about-
is. There it
Yes.
is. Copy a
All
link.
right. Good deal. He's got
All
it.
right.
So
Hey,
what
you know
other-
what? I'm not going to let technology kick my butt anymore. I am taking charge.
No. So here's one story from, again, we're going to go back to Qatar, Middle East. President Trump's over in the Middle East. He's in Qatar at the moment, unless he's been wheels up since the show started. But this is from Fox News. It says parade of camels welcome Trump motorcade to Qatar, and Trump says, "We appreciate those camels." He goes, "We appreciate those camels." I love it. I can imagine him saying this. We appreciate those camels. Gotta love the camels out there cameling it up. Yeah, so I love it. And every photo that I'm seeing here with the Qatari officials, Saudi officials, I mean, they seem to genuinely enjoy being around him. And I think you mentioned that in the first hour, John.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely Trump is making an impact in the Mid East, and I mean,
Yeah.
even like Syria now is talking to him, and I thought it's to me it's incredible. And Trump did this in his previous administration too. He was really starting to make differences and stuff. He's
Right.
winning people's respect there, and that's a big achievement. When you think about it, what goes on in the Mid East and how volatile it can be, for
Right.
somebody like Trump to get in there and win their confidence and make them actually sit down and think and say, you know what, I would like to be better about this. I would like to start putting things in a better direction.
Right.
That's an achievement. That's achievement beyond belief. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, think about millennia. these guys have fought, and so now they're actually stepping up to play. But will they accept Jews being in, Israel being in their midst? I don't know
Yeah.
if that'll ever.
Well,
fighting
there's a
will
lot.
come to an
There's a
end.
lot of leaders, a lot of the younger leaders in these countries that are like, yeah, we want to welcome them in. We want to have a greater Middle East because because some of them had left their countries and had been westernized. A lot of them with global economy, a lot of them have been westernized, and a lot of the wealthier families who rule these countries, they're westernized, so they're allowing a lot of more liberal, if you will, and I'm using not Democrat Party liberal, but more liberal policies, if you will, into their countries versus just tight grip stuff that they've seen for decades.
Oh yeah, you can be too far to the right too. I mean, like you were talking about
Sure.
Iran and where they
Yeah.
were more liberated and women could be more,
Right.
they could dress nicely and stuff.
Yeah,
And
we're not
they
talking about
necessarily weren't being scandalous the way they dress. It wasn't
No,
like they were
not
being,
at all. No,
terrible. But men in Iran didn't appreciate it too much, or somebody didn't appreciate it too much, and they brought back this whole what they call it hijab or whatever. They got wearing
Right.
this heavy wool in the desert or hot
Mhm.
areas anyway, arid and hot
Yeah.
areas, and it's just not comfortable for wear, and women are restricted, and their
Yeah.
abilities to seek their own way in life has become very limited.
Yep,
To
absolutely.
non-existent, and that's what happened in a lot of the Mideast countries, and it's terrible that a woman has to rely on a man.
Yeah.
What I
Well,
mean by that is that if her husband dies, she's got
Right.
nobody. She's got no means. She's not even supposed to be outdoors by herself, so she's
Right.
waiting on
She has
his
to be
brother or
with
somebody,
a male family
an
member.
escort. Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
like a brother-in-law or a father or somebody.
Yeah. Like
to
there were
escort them. So
like in
it's
Saudi
like, how do
Arabia,
you
there
feed
were-
your children if you're not allowed to go outside until you have a
there-
male escort? It could be hours to days, right?
Right. Well, there was like say Saudi Arabia where we would stay, in Riyadh, and it's been built up since I've been there. But the mall was connected to the hotel we would stay at. It was the Four Seasons. It was nice. Don't get me wrong, very nice hotel. But you go to the mall, very nice shopping center. I mean, just it'd be a classy mall here. It'd be high end store here.
Uh-huh.
But you walk around to some of those floors, and you get to this one floor, top floor. You as a male, you can't go up there. Even the male escorts couldn't go up there. And it was all blocked off like that. Like light would come in from the top, but like the windows were all screened off, so you couldn't see in or see out. And so that's where the women would go up. They could take off everything, try on clothes and everything up there, fashionable clothes, be women.
So what do they dress really nice underneath their hijab? I mean,
underneath all that. Yeah. Like they would have nice Prada, name brand stuff, really high end, but they couldn't show it off. Like they could
oh
wear
yeah,
like a
yeah,
skirt.
yeah. Because at home they didn't have to wear that. They only had to wear
Right.
that
At
when they
home, they
went
don't
out.
have to. And
Yeah.
amongst family and in the family compounds, they don't have to, do all that.
Yeah.
But out in public, they have to. Like I got to the point at that mall, I kind of stopped. I'm like, well, what's up there? And like you see all these male escorts that are kind of sitting around waiting, and they're like, oh, they told me what it was. I'm like, oh, okay, got it. Went on my
So they put
merry
them on the
way.
top floor so they can't escape.
Yeah, basically, probably can't escape. Yeah. Well, that way nobody can accidentally walk in too. You can control the
Yeah.
entry and exit by having it elevated, right?
Yeah.
So that way you don't have some male pervert looking in and seeing somebody's face. Can't see a face. You're a
Oh my
pervert.
goodness, that'd be a shame.
Yeah, I got on the elevator once, and this lady, she had her face uncovered, and she quickly covered it back up. And then, of course, whenever the door shut, I'm an American Westernite. She undid it because I'm not going to say anything, and she was a Western anyway, so whatever.
Oh,
But yeah, man, it was pretty wild going over there to some of those places, and just seeing the cultures and things like that. And of course, who are you to sit there and say I'm an American, blah blah blah? I'm gonna, you appreciate where you're from a little bit more by going to places like that, I think.
I have a friend on Washington State. He did that. He traveled when he was young. He's a doctor today, and he went to
So he
same
thinks
high
he's better
school.
than everybody.
No, he's
No, I'm
he's
kidding.
like a naturopathic doctor. He's not like a
real doctor.
doesn't
I'm
perform
kidding.
surgery or anything.
I'm kidding.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, he no, but he did. He strikes me as really good at what he does. But he takes and he talks about a lot of what you say. When he
Yeah.
traveled when he's young and doing the work he did and stuff like that. Missionary work, whatever it was. And he's got a lot of pictures he posts on social media and stuff.
Right.
And it was kind of pretty cool. Now he's more of a liberal. He and I
Yeah.
used to fight all the time, and it was kind of fun. I don't know how other people feel about it, but arguing with him was great because he's intelligent, and so he would make me think. So
Yeah.
you kind of, as they say biblically, you sharpen your sword.
Yeah.
Pull your sword off one another, and so.
Yeah, and it's funny, you go to some of these places and like you look around, whether it's South America, Central America, the Middle East, or even someplace in Eastern Europe, and you see these places and you're like giving some candy to some kids, and how it's like, that's like the biggest thing they probably had in weeks, you giving some candy, and it's like, but you look around, it's like there's no store for them to go to, there's no Walmart where they can go buy 10-pound bag of Tootsie Rolls, for crying out loud, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we take it for granted over here, and how we get pissed off whenever they didn't have the softest Charmin. It was only like the middle level Charmin, and then people get pissed off at that. It's like we have it pretty doggone good here. Let's look at what we're doing. We're killing ourselves with good food and cheap food, for crying out loud, and getting pissed off at the color of a picture on social media. People will debate a picture of a dress for months on end. And this is what we focus on in America, while they're over there just trying to survive in some places.
I wonder if the
So
food over there.
we've got to stop taking things for granted in our country, and also at the same time pay more attention and be more involved. Because if not, our country, with the mounting debt and all the other problems that we have, could easily go that direction, and it could go quickly. I've watched a number of zombie apocalypse
man.
movies. It could go south.
The Great Depression happened like overnight. It wasn't like it
Right.
was,
And all the signs were there. As historians and experts go back and look, they look at all the signs that were pointing to it, but people in the moment didn't have a clue what the heck. They didn't know how to read that.
They weren't seeing it. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't blatantly obvious of the time. You know how it is.
Right,
A
you can't see the
psychiatrist
forest.
never self-diagnoses, right? For
Right.
a
But
reason.
you
They
can't
go,
see the forest because of the trees, as the saying goes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So yeah, no, we saw that with the Great Recession here too, in 2008, 2007, 2008 when that kicked in, and
Right.
it was kind of
But-
forecasted, and when it happened, man, it was like throwing a switch.
But that had been brewing since like the 70s. Whenever they changed some of those laws that allowed for some of the practice on Wall Street, excuse me, not
Yeah.
Wall Street, Wall Street, right?
Uh-huh.
Allowed for some of those practices, where they were gambling on so many things. We're going to gamble on whether you're going to default on this, gamble. It's not even made up. These what were they, made up CDOs or whatever? They just shoot, I'm blanking on the name, but basically they were made up CDOs, all this stuff. So stuff that wasn't even backed by anything. It was basically gambling on people going to default on whatever. You're going to default on your housing market. or your payment, if you will. And this is what they betted on. And so this market was built to collapse, for crying out loud, because nobody was paying attention to it. And people got overstretched, if you will.
Well, there was that, and there was some other policies that took place.
You know,
as far as predatory lending was an issue.
But at the same
Chris
time,
and I argue about that a little bit, but
I
there was
will
an
argue
issue
with
going
that too,
on.
because I think individuals, just because somebody at the bank tells you can afford, $250,000 mortgage or $150,000, doesn't mean you should listen to him. You may be able to make the payment if you have somebody renting one.
It wasn't about whether a person could afford a $250,000 mortgage at the time, and that was kind of a high mortgage back then, wasn't it?
And they had three people had 3 or 4 at the same time.
Yeah, that's
people
ridiculous. And that no, you're right. That's an issue about overspending and not knowing your own worth.
Right.
But no, there was issues with hey, you know what? We're going to give you this loan. It is an adjustable, ARP, but it's only going to be 7%. And immediately sell that to one of their subsidiary companies for 18-19% or something. And all of a sudden you're in a high risk mortgage. You go, what happened? I had this nice, stable mortgage, and they sold
nobody was doing due diligence back then too. They were
so
halfway filling out paperwork, and
Well, it comes out to be just not being properly regulated. More or less. And
true.
I hate to say it that way. I hate to say we need regulations, but regarding some matters, we may need
reasonable.
some regulations.
Reasonable regulation. Some people don't want any government. I'm like, I want reasonable government. I want good government. I don't want kind of what we have now. Besides whatever Trump's doing, that's good. I think we need less government on the whole, for sure.
Well, we need government that works. So basically, our forefathers they gave Congress the power of commerce, right? They said the Commerce Clause allows them to regulate commerce. So when it comes to business and stuff, and in some ways, as conservatives, we created antitrust laws back in the 1800s. It was conservatives that introduced that and created that. And the reason why is because railroad barons and stuff were outpricing the market, and people couldn't bring things to market as they should.
Right.
And the government paid for this. They paid the way for these railroad barons to be what they were. And now they're sitting over here going, well, we're just going to gouge, for the cost of shipping and stuff like that. And these people going, well, I'm broke. I can't ship anything like this. Right. So they went to the government and complained about this. And the government's like, well, wait a minute. That's not what we did this for. We did this to expand our economy. We did this for the greater benefit of the whole. And we're not going to let these guys just bully these people and abuse these people with they had powerful positions, and they were holding that position over people's heads. Antitrust it comes from actually creating trust, where they were conglomerating and stuff and bringing out investors into markets and stuff. And again, abuses were happening from that, because now it was being controlled, and it was killing and squashing the economy. It's killing and squashing business. And of course, government, who needs revenue based off people doing business. And Ronald Reagan would be the first to tell you that the biggest portion of revenue comes to the United States is off small business. And if you're killing small business, you're killing the United States.
Oh, absolutely.
So we needed a balance. And that's what regulations were about. The problem is we see abuses in regulations that are happening when the regulatory agencies themselves become captured or abusive. This is what we inherently have our problem.
Right. Now, if you want to have a snapshot, if you will, people can do this on their daily life, daily drive, whatever. Middle of the work week, lunchtime, whatever, drive from one town to another town and see how many people driving back and forth have some sort of small business on the side of their vehicle or truck or whatever. Yeah. And you'll have an idea of small business in America. Never mind just a storefront in a small town, but people that basically their business is their home or their truck that they have. That's it. Millions of Americans do that. You take that out, you're destroying the economy. You're right, John.
Yeah. So, it's all about balance.
Yeah. And that's what it's truck drivers that are on the open road.
Yeah. So when you have this disbalance, you have problems. And so we do need some sort of regulation. So our forefathers were wise enough to have an understanding that we needed to have power with the Congress in order to regulate industry. And the problem is that people often get involved in the stock markets. They get involved in these industries. And there's with technology, with the ELDs. Let's go back to that. Here you got a guy who's on a transportation committee who happens to be invested into telematics devices. And somebody from a trucking company says, what if we get all these trucking companies on telematics devices? What if we put them all on ELDs? And he's like, hey, you know what? That's a pretty good idea. As he's looking down at his stock portfolio,
Yeah, he's like, how can this go up? Yep.
So this is where we get problems. The ELD didn't solve anything when it comes to safety, but it sure did create a $6 billion industry. There you go, Todd.
All right, that's it, folks. We'll see you next week, 7 to 9 Eastern, right here on WSM 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. The Colonel will be back next week. And